What's going on, Jeromes? We are back. Are we streaming? Yeah, we're streaming. There we go. Daily Jerome's live stream, 11 a.m. Central Time, Monday through Thursday. Thanks for coming along. Talking Vikings, talking draft, talking Matthew Stupid Stafford and the stupid trade, trading Kirk Cousins for all the picks. All the picks. So let's dive on in. First up, let's see. First up, Sean Sebastian. Thoughts on Momo Sanogo from Ole Miss. He's my teacher's son. The linebacker, I have no thoughts on him, but tell your teacher that he's really, really good. That is all. Hunter Williams, Skull from Savage, Minnesota. Thank you for the great content. Thank you for coming along. Would you give up Kirk Cousins for an extra first rounder and for a second to the Niners? Would you trade your first for Deshaun Watson? So trading the Niners for 12 and 40, is it 43 or 44? Doesn't matter. All right, so for the Niners' first two pick, yes. Yeah. Long story short, yes. Robert Barweiler. If the Niners were all in on Cousins, what would be the Vikings quarterback plans if they trade him away? I would go after Deshaun. If that fails and the Vikings secured the Niners' first round pick, you have 12 and 14. Probably going to have, maybe not their second round pick, but you'll definitely have some change. You still have 6 third and fourth round picks. You have all the ammunition you need to move up and go get your guy in the draft. Justin Brink. Basically, Vikings can go after any quarterback not named Trevor Lawrence. Justin Brink, do you think we should stick with Cousins? Just wondering, Levervitz. I believe that the Vikings' best chance to win immediately in 2021 is with Kirk Cousins, barring them getting Deshaun Watson. And the fact that the Vikings don't have to be sellers, I think that gives them a ton of leverage because they can just say no. But you see all those teams that were in on Matthew Stafford. It's like, wow. Like Panthers were ready to give up 8. And a late round pick. The Broncos were ready to give up 9 and Drew Lock. I don't want Drew Lock, by the way. So that's really amazing, considering that Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford. That deserves to be repeated 17,000 times. All this idiocy flying around and all the hyperbole, it really is getting out of hand. It's almost like the national media jabroni haircuts are trying to gin up Matthew Stafford's trade value, or not trade value, but his stock overall, like GameStop. It's like, I don't understand this. He is a career below 500 quarterback. Yes, he throws for a lot of yards, but that's era adjusted. Also, he had Megatron for the bulk of his career. He has a worse touchdown to interception ratio than Kirk Cousins. He has a worse career quarterback rating. He's worse DVOA. He's worse PFF. He has worse winning percentage against teams with a winning record. He's never won the division. He's only been to 1 Pro Bowl. I mean, what the hell is going on? I don't get it. I feel like we're being gaslit just by the media. It's like, oh, Matthew Stafford's the greatest quarterback. When you're having a conversation about the elite quarterbacks in this game, Matthew Stafford's name never comes up. It just doesn't. So I don't know. Patrick Harms, this Cousins to the Niners thing is really heating up. I wish you could find out what our front office thinks of it. I mean, Spielman could just be laughing and cackling because, I mean, ownership and Spielman were the guys who gave Cousins the 3-year, $84 million record-setting deal in free agency 3 years ago. They're the one who gave him the extension, so they just might be like, ha, 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 ha. But if the Niners show up with the first, second, and some change, Nick Kuzas, what are your thoughts of Jabril Cox in this draft? Would be a nice pick in round 3 if he's still there. I do like him, the linebacker out LSU. Now, if Shelvin came along with him, keeping bodies off of Cox, yes. I think Jabril is phenomenal. He's aggressive. I think that he reads and reacts well. I think that he's really good in coverage. So I think that he would fit right in. And I think that you could put him at that weak side spot in place of Eric Wilson. And in a world where Wilson walks to free agency, which is likely, Anthony Barr maybe is cut, a distinct possibility. A guy like Jabril Cox in the mid-rounds, sure. Joe was Ghent. I love your all 22 film breakdowns. Hey, thank you. Do you have a license? Plead the fifth. Colin Andrus. If the Vikings traded Kirk for 12 in the draft, how far could packaging 12 and 14 get them up to? Well, since the Vikings would be the ones asking, they'd probably have to give up a little bit more than in a vacuum what the chart would say. Trade. All right, so 12 and 14 value would be 2,300. So according to Hoyle, it would be slightly above the number 3 overall pick. Now, the Vikings would have to give up a little bit more than that, I believe, to jump up to 3, just because they are the ones asking. But yeah, I mean, they could potentially move up wherever the hell they want it. And it would be a good get for a team like the Jets or the Dolphins, younger teams that could definitely break that. I mean, how would you like to be the Dolphins? Say they are going to roll with Tua, and you're able to trade down from 3. You get 12, 14, and you have 18. So you have 3 mid-first round picks. I mean, that's a nice bonanza for them. Next up. Let's see here. Westworld. How big of an impact will Keenan McCardle have and his future prospect of being an OC? I think that if he wants to become a future OC, working with Justin Jefferson, working with Thielen, working with whoever they bring in as wide receiver 3, I think that could be a really nice boost for his resume. I think he did a phenomenal job with the Jaguars receivers. He did a great job when he was at Maryland with Stephon Diggs for a year and DJ Moore for a year. So yeah, I think McCardle, he's well respected. I think that he's a rising name in the game. If he wants to become OC, maybe he wants to become a head coach down the line. He certainly will have that option. Patrick Harms. Did you ever collect trading cards? I've been going through mine lately, and dang, it's making me feel old, very nostalgic. I did quite a bit back in the day. I wasn't I was more of a collector for the hobby of it as opposed to investing, spending, getting dough into some really rare cards that are highly valued. But yeah, it is a really fun hobby, and I am considering getting back into it. I might just buy a box of like mid-90s basketball cards, because that really was my wheelhouse. Just looking at the dudes like Ray Allen and Sharif Abdur-Rahim and Damon Stoudemire and KG and Kobe, like that era. That was a lot of fun, man. It was just really, really good. All right, so who's the player, shooting guard? I believe he went to he didn't go to the Bucks. He went to the Suns. He played college ball for the Badgers, like Michael. Doesn't matter. All right, so next up. Kyle Drummer. Based on the teams, Michael Finley. Nailed it. Based on the teams that made it to the Super Bowl in recent years, none of them are paying big money at running back. Do you think the Vikings will regret making Cook one of the highest paid running backs in the league? No, I don't think so. Pulford Skull. Let's say the Kirk trade. Because if you look at it, it's like, okay, well, what about Tennessee? I mean, Tennessee was a step away from the Super Bowl last year, had a lead in the AFC title game. The Titans, I mean, they certainly don't regret paying Derrick Henry, right? Pulford Skull. Let's say the Kirk trade happens and you get a first and second and Jimmy G from San Francisco for Kirk. What are your affecting Jew? I'm not really going after anyone except for Deshaun, and outside of that, I have all the chips to move up however the hell I please. Tristan Bailey. How disappointed would you be if Minnesota rolled Nate Stanley this season? I don't know. Are they tanking? Then I would agree. You wish Bud. How would you feel if we drafted Paris Ford? I think that he would be a good get in the 3rd round if he's there. I really like Paris Ford, man. Like, a little bit. He could stand to add some size, but you do love the aggression. I think that he's phenomenal in coverage. He can play man. He can certainly play zone. I don't think like he's the true free safety, but if you want to play him split safeties, you're certainly okay with that. And this is a really nice draft class for safeties, and I've said this a bunch on the channel. I think the Vikings should double down on safety, but the Vikings have the best safety duo in the NFL. Anthony Harris is going to leave in free agency in all likelihood, and Harrison Smith is going to be 32. Yeah, so it's time to get while the getting's good here. R3. How would the Vikings even consider trading Cousins at this point if he were on a? Sorry, let's try again. Would the Vikings even consider Cousins if he's on a more team-friendly deal? So, say that he was making $20 million per. Not talking about base salary, I'm talking about cap hits. So take away the signing bonus, but an aggregate average of $20 million per the next 2 years. No, I don't think they would move him. Bryce Ferringer. With the Pack committing to Rodgers for the foreseeable future, would you consider trading for Jordan Love? I would, except they won't deal in division, so you'd have to you would almost have to do a clandestine deal where they trade Jordan Love to someone else. They don't put a poison pill in the contract like they did with the Favre to the Jets deal in 2008, and then go get him. And you're going to have to pay a premium for the other team being the middleman. Also, I don't know if the league would allow it. I don't know. Like, I don't think teams want to go down the precedent of teams trading dudes to other teams and some other guy being in the middle just arbitraging it. I don't know. Nick V, 4-round mock draft. I personally love it. Don't send your mock drafts in. Yes, I'm in. Chris Danny Hansen, will Danielle Hunter break the single season sack record by how many? Yes, by 30. Goat Kogi, I feel like we should stick with Cousins unless we get blown away like pick 12 and a second. I agree. Like, yeah, the Vikings can trade Kirk Cousins, but the price has to be right. And I think the Vikings do have significant leverage in this spot. Westworld, do you see the Vikings signing a mid-tier tight end to replace Rudolph as the veteran? No, I think that the Vikings could go and draft a day 3 tight end. Although Kyle Pitts is really tempting, man. But Irv and Gronklin, I think, are ready to be tight ends 1 and tight ends 2. Plus, Hale Henches, don't forget him, the guy that they picked up off the Colts practice squad. Really solid blocking tight end. Kind of reminds me of like a diet Rhett Ellison, a diet David Morgan from back in the day. Ben Bauman. God, it's really depressing that David Morgan is back in the day. He was a 2016 pick, I want to say. It's funny how roster changes so much. Ben Bauman, seeing what Carolina offered for Stafford, say they offered us their top 10 pick and Teddy for Kirk. You doing it? I'm doing it for the pick. I wouldn't trade for Teddy. Like, I understand the nostalgia and the feels, but no, he's not what the Vikings need right now. Needs right now. Outlandish operations. Jonathan Adams, thoughts on the Vikings taking a flyer on him, 5th rounder Worthy, IMHO. So he is the really big X receiver from Arkansas State, right? So Omar Bayless was the other Arkansas State dude, right? And Adams, I believe Adams had 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns this season, I want to say. But he's a big dude. He is not a refined route runner at all. And he's not going to be able to use his size in the NFL like he did in small-time college football. But he is interesting. Day 3 selection, 5th rounder might seem a little bit too rich, but yeah, maybe. Andy Shung. If we somehow end up with one of the top 3 rookie quarterbacks or Watson, how much do you trust Zimmer in the front office? So that's what some people brought that up before. It's like, I don't like the Deshaun Watson trade, or I don't like the Zach Wilson draft pick because Zimmer's here. He doesn't have to be here for long. I mean, coaches are very easily interchangeable. And if Zimmer is fired, do you understand how all of the offensive geniuses are going to come out the woodwork, and all of a sudden the Vikings is the most attractive position in the NFL. You have a stable front office that doesn't like making changes. You have ownership who likes continuity. You have Jefferson. You have Thielen. You have Dalvin. You have an emerging offensive line. You have a franchise quarterback, TBD. No, Bieniemy will be in. Doug Peterson be in. Joe Brady would be in. People be in. Yeah. Brian Daboll will be in. Let's see here. Nick Jones. Oh, hey, let us know where you're watching from. Give a couple shout outs. Nick Jones. I love to see the Vikings trade up to get Lance. Seems like he could go early as 7 to Detroit or 8 to Carolina on top of swapping 14. What else would it cost to trade up high enough to go get him? Well, you might have to jump Detroit at 7. So you might have to get up to 6. It's going to be spendy. Hey, stop spamming the chat, man. There we go. Probably it would take a future one to get from 14 up to 6, somewhere in there. Next up, Apex Legend Gamer. What happened to Chuba Hubbard? He was being hyped as a first rounder last offseason. It was an interesting year for Chuba. Honestly, I think that he should have tried to get into the supplemental draft, but is what it is. I think some teams will potentially look down on what happened with him and not Dana. I'm a man. I'm 40. Why does his name escape me right now? Gundy. Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't hold it against him. It is what it is. Young kids can make decisions like that. But I think that his talent in a one-cut system, in an outside zone scheme, I think that it would be a plus. Where I think that he probably still will be a late third or fourth round pick. I think he'll bring a ton of value. Kind of like Jordan Howard coming out of Indiana to the Bears a handful of years ago. So, yeah, I just think that sort of had a meh season after phenomenal production. Should have declared last year. Should have tried a supplemental draft this offseason, but is what it is. And, yeah, like Etienne and Najee Harris just ran away with this thing. Same thing with the Carolina running backs. So, a couple shout-outs. Daniel Tuma, Skull from Maryland. What's up? Purple Rain Skull from Wausau, Wisconsin. What's going on? Pulford Skull, Hot Chicken, Nashville. Patrick Harm, Cedar Rapids. Happy birthday, Harrison Smith. Oh, yeah. He's old. Mike Benham, Skull from Grand Rapids. What's going on? Brock Erickson from Fargo. No-go on Trey Lance. Oh, he's one of those NDSU haters. White Man Skull from the International Space Station. Cap. Two Fallon Skull from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. What's up? Nick Kuzas, NCAA football comeback, score from Fargo too. Yeah, that's exciting. I'm excited about that. Thanks for coming along, guys. Are the best. Next up, Sean Sebastian. Your channel is growing so fast. Props to you. Hey, thank you. Plus, isn't Josh Hinkst probably the worst possible candidate at strength and conditioning considering the Eagles' injuries last year? Well, I don't know. You can't really strengthen an ACL. No, but there is injury patterns that you can trace to a strength and conditioning program. Like when the Vikings, like 8 years ago, had like a rash of torn pecs, like a bunch of dude had torn pecs, a little bit too much benching, possibly. But nah, I don't read anything to the conditioning and what happened with the Eagles. Just string of bad luck. Tommy Johnson. If the Niners tried to do a similar trade for Kirk as the Rams did for Stafford, sending Jimmy G. Now, I do not want. Oh, well, hold on. How hard would you do? Well, they wouldn't have to send Jimmy G because they can just cut him. Like there's not any guaranteed money left in his deal. I believe. I think that they can clear up like $26 million just by cutting him. So this isn't like a Jared Goff situation where he has guaranteed money in his deal. Some team has to take it. They can't just straight up cut him because they'll have that dead cap on their books. So they don't have to do that. So they don't have to pay extra us to take Jimmy G just to cut him. Bay Thomas music. What's your dream scenario to replace him if Kirk got traded? If I could hand pick, I would take Deshaun. Absent that, I would trade up for Zach Wilson. I would trade up not as far for Trey Lance. I would trade up for Justin Fields. Or, if there's any hesitation at all with the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence, there shouldn't be, but say there is. Say that they really do like Fields or Lawrence, and say the Vikings trade up to number 2. Wow. Could you imagine? Could you honestly imagine the Vikings trade up to 2 after trading Kirk to the Niners, and then they trade up from 2 to 1 and get Trevor Lawrence? It's a non-zero chance. Not likely, but it's non-zero. Tristan D. If the rumors are true about 49ers or Kirk, I don't see Rick trading him unless they get a hell of a good offer. Well, yeah. Ezekiel Lockhart. Number 1, do you like the new NHL retro reverse jerseys? I did not see them. Let's take a look. The Wild should just buy the rights to the North Star's name, by the way. I mean, Dallas can change the name. It's like when the Charlotte Bobcats bought back the Hornets name. I don't know. This looks like they're trying too hard to be Packers. I understand like their North Star's colors, but nah. Feh. Would Zach Wilson have to wear number 1? I get bad Warren Moon flashbacks. Yeah, he can wear number 1. I mean, Kyle Sluter wore number 1. Shit. Chris Danny Hansen. I know he's not a scheme fit, but how would you feel about the Vikings going after Hafthor Bjornsson for the O-line or D-line? I think he's too tall. At a certain point, being too tall becomes a detriment. Like there certainly is diminishing returns. I think Bjornsson is. Oh, Bjornsson is the mountain from Game of Thrones. He's also the strongman competition guy. But I think Bjornsson slimmed down. I think he actually lost some weight because I think he's getting out of strongman competition. Let's see. All right, so yeah, there's the mountain. And how tall is he? I think he might be too tall. He's 6'9", weight 452. Okay, but yeah, at like tackle and defensive end, once you get past 6'6", I mean, you start having diminishing returns. I mean, I know that Buckner is. How tall is Buckner? 6'6", 6'7". Eric Armstead 6'7", Rousseau 6'7". But especially on the interior, where it doesn't really help, even though, like we said, Buckner is phenomenal, but he plays with great leverage. And generally, the taller you get, the lower, the tougher it is to play low. So with Bjornsson, I don't know. I know that he used to play basketball. Or was that Brian Shaw? No, Brian Shaw used to play basketball. But Bjornsson, I don't know if he has the footwork to be a tackle. I don't know if he has the quickness to be a guard. I think he's too tall to play inside. I think that he wouldn't be that good of a center because Kirk would have to take the ball like up here. Defensively, I mean, you bring him in to like block kicks. Sure, but that's really about it. Let's see. Next up, put way too much thought into that. Jack Bornicki. Do you think Jimmy G is a decent enough bridge quarterback? No. Matt Hammernick. Say we get the number 12 overall pick from the Niners for Kirk. Do you think the Dolphins at 3 would be interested in trade down? Yes. If so, it would be the trade compensation. 12 and 14. Maybe a 4. Then hold the line. John DeRuiter. Am I crazy, or does Danielle Hunter seem as intimidating as Francis Ngannou? I mean, maybe, because we've had this question before, like which Viking would have made a great MMA fighter? And I think when Sendeo was on the team, I think pound for pound, he would have been a solid choice. He probably could have slimmed down and fought in middleweight pretty easily. But, I mean, Daniil with that reach, yeah, that'd be tough, man. But, yeah, he would have to, well... Do you think Daniil could shrivel down to 225? No, 205. Yeah, because sorry, I'm thinking about other organizations' weight classes, but yeah, man, it's like 255 Daniil he could easily make. It'd be rough, but I mean, Ngannou, like there is just something to be said. So there's all right. So Daniil, #blessed, God-given strength. But also there's a lot of like weight room strength in there too. And there's a subtle difference between weight room strength and like life strength, like they talk about farmer strong, country strong people, and where they build up their muscles just by working on the farm or haul around sacks of feed and stuff like that. I mean, Ngannou, I believe the story is that Ngannou was working in like a sand and gravel pit or something like that. Or not pit, but like a quarry, and he would just do that all day, just shovel, and then eventually someone discovered him, and wow. But I mean, Ngannou, like his hands are like the fist of God. They really are, just out like a light. Wow. Like Ngannou's smack on Overeem, just I watched that back a couple times a month. It's just nighty night. Now I understand that Ubereem's chin was going at that point, but wow, like are you kidding me? That is the equalizer where like Ngannou. So Ngannou obviously had trouble with Stipe because Stipe is a veteran and also is much more advanced on the ground. Ngannou really has to work on that. But I mean, that one punch, like he's never out of a fight because he could always just land one shot, which is hilarious. Which is why I think that like an Ngannou and John Jones heavyweight fight would be interesting as hell. But I think that would be a massive advantage to John Jones, especially since Jones wouldn't have to cut weight at heavyweight and is so much more talented in the clinch and also on the ground. But that one shot, man. What are we talking about? Oh, doesn't matter. Samson Romaine. If we trade Kirk to the Niners for the number 12 overall pick, could you see us taking Mac Jones? And then I like Mac Jones. I don't love him. I think that 12 or 14 is a little bit too high for him. But also, if that's what the market says you have to pay, I mean, if the top 4 quarterbacks are gone way before the Vikings pick, yeah. How doing? Even though I think you could trade down in the first and still get Mac Jones, I think you'd have to stay ahead of Washington at 19, Chicago at 20, but also you run the risk of getting leaped as well. Also, the Patriots at 15. I might have to just take him. How doing? How much less trade picks or less value is Kirk compared to Stafford in a trade? Well, we've said on here that the Lions basically got an extra first-round pick because they took the Jared Goff trade. Like, let's not kid around here. So I think that in a vacuum, a first and a third, even though it is a future first, is probably about what the market would have been for Stafford. And I think that does bear out where you see what the Panthers and the Broncos were offering, the 8 and the 9 pick, so a first-round pick and a little bit of change, but, first and a future third. I think that makes a little sense. So, yeah, the Vikings can get a first, especially a high first out of it, potentially even more because of the leverage, because of the pool of supply has shrunk. Sure. Caleb Carter. If I'm not mistaken, LS Morgan Cox did not resign with the Ravens. Thoughts of bringing him in. Isn't he old? Well, yeah, Andrew DePaul is old too. Like, how old is Morgan Cox? Yeah, Morgan Cox is old because he's the same age as me. But 34, I mean, sure. Dominic Whetstone, we really just hired someone from the Eagles to be our strength conditioning coach. Why? I mean, the Eagles have to be one of the most injured teams every year. Again, strength conditioning does not equate to injuries necessarily. Michael Miller, we Vikings fans deserve a Super Bowl. What do you think it will take to get our guy, Deshaun Watson? Trade Kirk, flip all the picks to Watson, to Houston for Watson. Probably 12, 14, future one. Maybe a little bit extra. That's about it. Michael Merchant Robbles. Thoughts on bringing back Andrew DePaul for maybe a 1-year contract or a 2-year contract? I would say 1 year, but keep an eye out for UDFA long snappers coming in and keep one on the practice squad. Miles, what are the Saints going to have to do to manage the cap? I think they're going to have to cut a bunch of dudes, and I don't think they're going to be able to re-sign Ryan Ramczyk, which is just beautiful. Bruce Robinson Jr. If one of the top defensive backs fall to 14, should we consider Zimmer a special defensive back in the first round? All right, so like if Surtain or Horn or Farley made it to 14, it would be tempting, to be honest. Because even though I do like Gladney, I like him better as a full-time slot guy. And then you have the length on the outside with Dantzler and a Horn or a Farley. That'd be gross. Man. Jaime Kukin. I do like Surtain as well, but, I don't know. Jaime Kukin. Which hurt the 49ers more this season, trading Buckner or Bosa's injury? Bosa's injury. Yeah. I think Buckner is what it is. I think so. They traded Buckner to Indianapolis. They got Kinlaw back, or they drafted Kinlaw with the pick that they got. And, Bosa's injury really impacted Kinlaw because their teams were able to focus on him more and more. So if you remove one of the best edge rushers in the game, like it makes everything that much harder for everyone else, as we saw with the Vikings. So Bosa going down was much more difficult. G. Speezy, should we draft a quarterback in the first round? If you don't trade Kirk, no, because in all likelihood, only Mac Jones will be available at 14. Tony Levins, Zach Wilson or Deshaun Watson? I would take Watson because you know what you're getting. He is only 25. Yes, he's got the big contract, but you can work around that. Zach Wilson, it's a big gamble. I think that he has the capability of being one of the best quarterbacks in the league eventually, but Watson is already that now. So taking a bird in the hand as opposed to two in the bush. John Adams. Now, because the Vikings are in win now mode, I'm taking Watson. If I was a team like the Jets or not the Dolphins, but a team like the Jets, I would take Zach Wilson. John Adams. If we swap quarterbacks and get the same package as the Lions from the Rams, but we get this year's first instead of 2022, would you be happy with that? Yes. Then trade Jim. I mean, if you can flip Jimmy to the Patriots, sure. Tristan Bailey, if the Vikings send Kirk to the Niners, does Minnesota have enough ammo to make an offer for Watson? Yes, I think so. Purple Vengeance, any pending star free agent guards to replace Dakota don't start? Or draft replacements. I think you can really hammer the draft, especially end of day 2, beginning of day 3. I think there's going to be a ton of value for interior offensive linemen at those stages. But also, I think David DeCastro might get cut because the Steelers have to get underneath the cap. And DeCastro, even though he was an all-pro this season, that was much more about reputation. Same thing with Mike Pouncey. Pouncey might retire too. So I think that they might cut David DeCastro. And even though he certainly isn't the David DeCastro of 5 years ago, he still has plenty of tread left on the tire, and I would go after him. Gavino. Trading Kirk is no good no matter what because of all the trading Kirk is good no matter what because of all the possibilities. Agree. R Free, what second-year player from the defense will have a breakout year in 2021? James Lynch, if they actually let him play. As well as Cameron Dantzler, I think if he can stay healthy, I think he could ascend to become a top 10 cornerback in this league. I think that he certainly has the projection to do that. Sean Sebastian, pass on quarterback this year if Cousins is traded. Unless you get Deshaun, no, I wouldn't, because there's too many questions about that quarterback class coming in. It's like, yes, Spencer Rattler, yes, Sam Howell, yes, Derek King, yes, Desmond Ridder, ooh, yes. Actually, no, screw it, draft quarterback next year. Matt Myers, pay Owe Ujulari, who you got for the next 10 years. I would bet on pay because he's the safest bet. Now, if we had odds, I would take Ujulari. I would. Owe, I don't know. Miles, where's Michael Pierce rank for nose tackles? Specifically for run defense, I would put him in the top 5 pretty easily. All around, even though nose tackles generally, you don't get a ton of pass rush, but I actually think that Pierce has a little bit more boogie than he's given credit for. Like, he was often, well, not often, but he was given opportunities to play on third down for the Ravens. Actually did pretty well, so I'm excited to have him back. Connor McMullen, will the addition of Barmore and Webb make this the soon-to-be not the best defensive line in the league? Yeah, even though I just sort of poo-pooed on OM, the potential is certainly there. Barmore, you're also betting on potential too, but I think Barmore quickly could become one of the better 3 techs in the NFL. Cole Habza, some of the Niners fans are ridiculous what they expect to give us. Kevin Ace trade scenario, Vikings, Jaguars, first round. Vikings, Jaguars. Yeah, sure. How doing? Would you rather trade for Carson Wentz or have a hot dog? Hot dogs all day. Coney dog. Jens Harold Claudius. Biggest first round bust in the 2020 draft. Let's take a gander. It might be Andrew Thomas. Which kind of stinks because I really liked Andrew Thomas in the draft process, but it just certainly did not work out year 1. The Giants were a mess this year. Here. You could say Ruggs, except he had his highs. Austin Jackson had injury stuff. Oh, Arnett. Yeah. I mean, Arnett probably should have been a 3rd-round pick. Like, if the Raiders don't take him at 19, I don't think he gets drafted until the 3rd round. Tamura's good. Ruiz is fine. Brooks was sort of eh. Patrick Queen was sort of all over the board. He missed a lot of tackles this year. Oh, Isaiah Wilson. Yeah. Isaiah Wilson, where he just does not follow team rules at all. I think that they might actually end up cutting him. How crazy is that? Oh, and Igbenegene might have been the worst cornerback in the league last year. Rough. Let's see here. Last one. Oh, we got a couple more. Sure. Thoughts on this trade idea with the Vikings and Panthers? Panthers get Cousins, 14, third. I just want the picks. I don't want Teddy. Hunter Williams, if not, would you trade for Bridgewater? No. Michael Marin, Robles, would you want Jimmy G? No. No. That is all. All right, so that's it. That is the Daily Jerome's live stream for Tuesday. Thank you guys for coming along. Subscribe. We got a bunch of awesome Viking stuff and general NFL knowledge bombs being dropped all over the place. Thanks for coming along. You guys are the best.